Hello, welcome to this next tutorial. This tutorial we're going to use Midjourney to create some textures that we can use in the 3D applications. So we're going to create a PBR texture and we're going to combine the joys of Midjourney with a substance sampler. Okay, so as you can see, I've been doing some testing and let's get on with it. Right, so here we go. I'm in my little testing area, or my little tutorial area. And what I want to do is look at a tile, and we can do that very simply by typing /imagine. There we go, whoops. And then what I want, what I want is, I don't know, some soil, and I want it to be a tiling texture. So I have to put minus tile in, and then the default for Midjourney is V4, and V4 doesn't have the tile option in it, so I'm going to put -V and 5 in to tell it to use V5, and when that runs, there we go, it's sent off to the thing. It's going to generate me an image, and I'll speed up here to save dead space. Okay, so that came out a little bit cartoony, so we need to tell it really what we want. So I'll press Ctrl-Z to get my command back, and then at the beginning I'm going to type photograph. There we go, and then comma. And this should then give me a much more realistic kind of image. So I'll speed up. And there we go, that's a much more realistic picture. So that's kind of crafting our first bit of the problem. We want some control over how distant we are away from our soil piece, and we'll have a look at that in the next section. Okay, so we want to control how far we are from our object here. So what we can do is Ctrl-Z to repeat our prompt. And at the front, I'm going to put a camera instruction. So close up is a camera instruction. Whoops. If I could type, I can't type, obviously. There we go. So close up, comma, and then our the rest of our prompt. Okay, so there's our close up, which might not look too different from our previous attempts. Because in our previous attempts, Midjourney was making it up, essentially. It was filling in the blank that we'd left. So if I want to move it further away, we can press Ctrl-Z, and then instead of close-up, we can put medium shot, and then press enter. There we go, we're getting a much more distant look now with that medium shot. So you can switch between those, and you can experiment with other shot angles. I find that things like wide angle and such like have a tendency to get confused and start including sky. So from that point of view, let me try one. So let's do a wide angle. Oops. Get rid of shot. But now I want to direct where it's going. So I want it to be looking down on our subject. So let's run that one. There we go. It's somewhat successful, although we've got some sky down here. You might want to just adjust this looking down. We could say from above, see how that works. There we go, we've got some more distant views now. But the point of that is that, close up and medium shot and no direction tends to give you the results that I'm looking for. Anything out of that can tend to introduce some unexpected elements, so you might have to wrangle it a bit to get that to work. Okay, so we're going to pick an image in a minute, and then we're going to go into substance. So I'll talk to you next. Okay, so I've had a quick scan over the images that we've generated to find one that I would like to use. I like these medium shot photographs. They're a nice distance and quite good detail. I think I'm going to use this one here. So this is picture 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So I'm going to ask it to upscale image 3. If I go to the end of my conversation, which is down here somewhere, that's it rather, that should be my upscaled version. Okay, so we could make variations on this, but I want to control that a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is copy this command here, and then click on the image, and then right click on the image and copy link. I realised that I needed to copy that second here. We'll do that again in a second, sorry about that. So imagine, oops, not imagine. And then we need to paste our image link in there. So it's going to base all of our outputs here on that image. And I want to give it the same prompt as I did before. And then press enter. Okay, so that's given us a few images to use as options. They're quite good. If you want to use one, then use the upscale and go from there. But on your upscale image, whichever one you choose, if you click on it and then right click and save image, and I'm going to call this soil. There we go. Now we're ready to go into substance. So I'm going to pause here and start that in the next section. Okay, so I've launched Substance Sampler now, and I'm going to create new up here. First thing I'm going to do is rename this. So let's right click and rename red ground. I think that's what I'm going to call it. Okay, so I've got a sphere in here. I'm going to change that over using the viewer settings to a plane. And I've also split my window. So this icon here shows 2D, 3D. You can have 3D only or 2D only, but I find it helpful to have both. Okay, so to start our material off, we can drag and drop my soil into there, and it will come up with this import option. So I want image to material. I want it to add a base material and then click import. So we've now used our AI generated image and pumped it through Substance Sampler, which is an AI image examiner, and it's given us a texture, and it's not too bad. We have some control over this, and I just want to show you a little bit of that. So first of all, we can select a base material. So this is just a default base material. I think I'm going to put that over to concrete, and it will give us a slightly duller kind of look. We don't want it to be shiny or anything mad like that. Then I'm going to click on image to material, and we can have a look at some of the options here. So if I go over to the normal map, you'll see this is the normal map it has generated. And we can control that to a certain extent by changing these detail sliders. So I can over exaggerate the medium detail, and that should recalculate my normal map and incorporate that. Or I can pull that back, say actually I want the large detail to be more emphasized, or I could de-emphasize the medium medium details. And if I get real close, we could really emphasize the fine details to give a really kind of fine grainy look to our texture. The geometry equalizer can help you a little bit here. This is basically, from what I can gather, how the three normal maps mix together: the micro, the medium, and the large. So we can equalize their effect. and you can see that that flattened out a little bit. Or we can take it down to 0, and you'll see it's kind of mixing them equally, and we're getting a lot of spikes now because the fine detail is as important to it now as the large and medium. So I'm going to turn that up a bit, perhaps even more. There we go. So now we have a pretty nice material, and our viewer on this side, if I just close that for a sec, if we come down here, we can see it's tiling twice. Get rid of that, I don't know what's going on there. We can see it's tiling twice. Once it catches up, I can change this to have it tiling 4 times, and so on and so forth. Now, it's almost inevitable that we're going to get some repeating details, but that's, you know, a lot of that is down to your choice of the texture you pulled out of Midjourney. Often when you're creating base textures like this, you want something that's quite plain, with no distinguishing, you know, super distinguishing features. This, you know, has this rock here, which is obviously giving the entire game away. Okay, let me turn that down. Whoops, to 2 again. There we go. It's still showing up, but it's not quite so bad. Right, what else do we have? Roughness. We can come in here and change our roughness. And if I select the roughness map over here, I can see it's all pretty rough. It's all verging towards the lighter sides, but we can help that along by increasing the base value. Obviously, for a soil texture, a standard dryish soil texture, it's going to be mostly dry, mostly non-reflective. So I tend to start with a higher variance there, or a higher value. We can decrease variations or increase them depending upon what we want. I'm going to decrease them. Then we have a variation softness. I don't want it to be completely tied to detail, so softening it, breaks it up a bit. And then we have the importance of albedo. So the albedo map, which is more or less this base color, is contributing to our roughness at the moment. So if I turn that off, it's going to take a lot of the detail from the albedo map out of the normal calculation and rely more upon, I think, the height. If I turn that up, then it's going to get a lot more of the detail from the map. And that's a matter of taste a lot of the time. The default is 0.5, it's usually adequate. I think I prefer to take it out a little bit more than that, personally. Okay, so now we have a tiling texture, and I just want to look at it on perhaps the sphere. I can see that there is a tile actually, and that can be fixed with this preserve tiling. I've given it an image which it doesn't know is tiling, so it's tried to tile it for me. I'm going to turn that on, and now it should preserve the tiling within the actual image itself. You can see that seam now has gone away. And there we go. We have a tiling texture, and all that's left is to export it, as long as you're happy. One thing that is quite nice here is if I'm doing a texture like this, I like to have a late preview using an outdoor HDR. So if I double click on that, that should apply it to the scene. You can apply any one of these and they'll all change, just to give an idea of what it looks like under kind of a more natural lighting view. Okay, so if you want to export it, you come to this share button. You can send it to designer, painter or stager if you have those, or you can export as. So you see it's got our name here. We can give it a directory to put it into. We can set our output styles. So I've got JPEG here, I could go PNG. A format. Now I've got Blender Cycle Eevee on there because the default normal map for those are different to the default in Substance. Substance uses, I think, the Direct 3D, and Blender uses the OpenGL. So I've selected that so that I get the right normal map for me. I've got widths set here, my base color normal and roughness at metallic. And if I hit export, it's going to go into a little queue over here. And I can click this directory to go and have a look at what it's produced. So there's my base color, I've got a metallic, I've got a ground, and I've got a rough. And now I can use those as tiles in Blender, or whatever else I happen to be using. Or I could take them back into Substance and use them, to paint something. So I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, please ask below, and I will talk to you another time.